true carrier breeds, but they lost their homing instinct long ago. So pigeons, known as carrier pigeons, don't actually have that ability to retrace their steps back home. So yeah, that was something that pigeons used to do long ago. They're considered the world's oldest domesticated bird, with the evidence of domestication dating back 5,000 to 10,000 years. So that's a lot of years. Hello everyone. Good morning. I hope you're doing well today, and I hope your day is going great. And if not, that is totally fine. Welcome to the Early Bird Weekly Podcast, where we talk about birds. I'm Rutiksha Satish Kumar, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about New York pigeons. So you've all probably been to New York at least once if you live in the United States, and you must have seen a lot of pigeons. If you don't live in the United States, or if you've never been to New York, or if you've never fed pigeons before, you would have probably seen them in famous movies like Home Alone, Paddington, and many others. Pigeons are everywhere, but how much do we really know about them? So in this episode, I'm going to be shining the spotlight on a very overlooked bird, rock doves, or common pigeons. I'm going to be going over a lot of facts about them. They're actually very interesting birds if you deep dive into them. Their history in specific is very interesting because the pigeons that you actually see in cities and urban landscapes were once domesticated pigeons. Humans actually bred them for homing abilities, or messenger pigeons they are called, or to do show traits, or fancy pigeons that were used for shows. And also, of course, for food. Yes, some people do eat pigeons. A dish called squab consists of pigeons, and it is actually a staple food in many regions globally, such as North Africa, Europe, and parts of Asia. This was mostly in history long ago, but people still do that. Going back to messenger pigeons, this is actually very cool. There are actually 3 types of messenger pigeons, or 3 main types. Homing pigeons are domestic pigeons that are selectively bred for their innate ability to navigate back to their home loft from unfamiliar locations. So homing pigeons can kind of trace their way back home, and so they get their name, homing pigeons. And then we have the racing pigeons. They're closely related to homing pigeons, but they're bred specifically for racing. So they have enhanced speed and stamina, and they're used in competitive long-distance flights that test their navigational precision and endurance. And then we have the 3rd main type, the carrier pigeons. So historically, the carrier pigeons were birds used in military operations to deliver critical messages under duress. So carrier pigeons are very useful and very interesting to learn about as well, because they were used during critical times in the military and during war. But right now, people usually conflate homing pigeons true carrier breeds, but they lost their homing instinct long ago. So pigeons, known as carrier pigeons, don't actually have that ability to retrace their steps back home. So yeah, that was something that pigeons used to do long ago. They're considered the world's oldest domesticated bird, with the evidence of domestication dating back 5,000 to 10,000 years. So that's a lot of years. Yeah, so that is just a quick introduction or a quick overview of the history of these common city pigeons, or rock doves. But before we go deeper into the episode, we're going to kind of take a moment to ourselves and do some breathing exercises. So if you guys want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. If not, that is totally fine. We're going to slow down and breathe in for 3 seconds. Hold your breath, 3, 2, 1, and release it slowly. Let go of all the negative thoughts. Let go of things you cannot control, and focus on the moment. Let's do that 2 more times. Breathe in. Hold it for 3, 2, 1, and let it out. slowly. Thank you so much for doing that with me. Sometimes I like to just do some breathing exercises if I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious, no matter where it is. You don't have to necessarily close your eyes if you're in public, and if you want to calm down, it's always useful to just slow down and take a couple seconds for yourself, adjust your breathing, and come back to the present. So, if you're ready, let's get into the episode and learn about New York City pigeons. So, New York City pigeons are actually called rock doves, and their scientific name is Columba livia. That's a very easy name to pronounce for once. Usually scientific names are very hard to pronounce, but Columba livia, or the rock dove, is a member of the bird family Columbidae. So the Columbidae family is also known as doves and pigeons because it consists of doves and pigeons. The rock dove is simply referred to as the pigeon. The domestic pigeon, Columba livia domestica, which includes about 1,000 different breeds, descended from this species. Escaped domestic pigeons have increased the populations of feral pigeons around the world. As we talked about before, feral pigeons are the pigeons that you find in urban city landscapes. So just a general overview of the rock dove itself. They have a lifespan of about 6 to 35 years, pretty good. Their population size is pretty stable. Right now it sits at 260 million, which is a pretty good number. Their top speed is actually 100 kilometers per hour. So they're pretty fast birds. They are average sized, about 29 to 37 centimeters in length, and a 62 to 72 centimeter wingspan, and they weigh from up to 238 to 380 grams. So they're pretty average, and most of the birds, most of the pigeons and doves in the Columbidae family kind of look the same. I mean, there are differences definitely with color and appearance, but in size and wingspan and length, they kind of look the same. They're all kind of stout and short. So yeah. Speaking about the Columbidae family, I did do some research on the family, and it turned out to be very exciting, very interesting. The Columbidae family is a bird family consisting of pigeons and doves. It is the only family in the order Columbiformes. The family occurs worldwide, but the greatest variety is in the Indo-Malayan and Australasian realms. So more about these two realms. The Indo-Malayan realm, also known as the Oriental realm, and the Australasian realm, are two of the Earth's 8 major biogeographic realms. They're distinguished by their unique evolutionary histories and separated by significant marine barriers. So if you remember, Earth was not actually separated into 7 continents in history. It actually had a lot of ice ages and a lot of drifting of tectonic plates that kind of separated a lot of continents into different ways before they became stable 7 continents. And during this separation and ice ages, a lot of evolution and migration took place. A lot of species evolved that way, and they evolved to be in particular places and adapted to be in particular places. Some did not make it, but the ones that did have very cool evolutionary histories. So the Indo-Malayan realm encompasses the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, southern China, Greater Sunda Islands, and it has placental mammals such as Old World monkeys, and whereas the Australasian realm includes Australia, New Guinea, New Zealand, New Caledonia, and the eastern Indonesian archipelago. So it is defined by high endemism. Endemism is kind of like when animals are only found in one particular area. So like a special rare animal. A lot of animals are like that in the Australasian realm, particularly marsupials, monotremes, and ratite birds. So yeah, that's just a little tangent into what the Indo-Malayan and Australasian realm is. This family, the Columbidae family, contains 344 species. That is a lot. divided into 50 genera. If you have noticed, the taxonomy or the way of naming animals is usually with two names. One is the name of the family, and one is the name of the genera or the genus. So in this case, Columba livia, the first name is the family name, and the second is the genera. In the Columbidae family, there are 50 genera. 13 of the species are extinct. So it's a pretty cool, pretty big family. Some of the birds that are found in this family, there are 344 birds. I am not going to name all of them, but some of them are the mourning dove, the common wood pigeon, the Eurasian collared dove, the Nicobar pigeon, spotted dove, etc. So as you can see, a lot of doves and pigeons are found in this family. If you want to do more research, there are so many websites out there. So now let's get into the distinction between a dove and a pigeon. You might have wondered, what is the difference between a dove and a pigeon? So the answer is nothing. They're literally the same. Scientifically, there's really no distinction between doves and pigeons. Both belong to the same bird family, Columbidae, and the difference is entirely linguistic, cultural, and based on the size perception, rather than the taxonomy or any scientific distinction. So doves are usually like the smaller and slender members of the Columbidae family, such as mourning doves and Eurasian collared doves, spotted doves. They're all more smaller than the pigeon, and they also have pointed, tapered tails, whereas pigeons are usually like the larger and stockier members of the family, such as the Nicobar pigeon, the common wood pigeon, etc. And they have, rounder and compact bodies, and they have shorter, squared-off tails. So the difference usually just comes from appearance and size rather than any scientific distinction or taxonomic distinction. Another interesting thing that I found out is that unfledged baby doves and pigeons are usually called squabs and are generally able to fly by 5 weeks of age, which is pretty soon. And these fledglings, with their immature squeaking voices, are called squeakers once they're weaned or weaning. So, squabs and squeakers. This really reminds me of how we call newborns as babies and a little bit older kids as toddlers, which kind of is very similar to the pigeons. And actually, unlike most birds, both sexes of doves and pigeons produce something called crop milk to feed their young. So this is a very interesting, very surprising thing that I learned about pigeons. It is actually a kind of milk that is secreted by this pigeon, and it kind of like regurgitates. It's secreted in its throat, and it regurgitates it to feed the baby pigeons. And it's kind of similar to mammalian milk. So if you see mammals and humans, they produce their own milk for their newborns to nourish the newborns. Similarly, these pigeons, they produce something called crop milk or pigeon milk to nourish their squabs or squeakers. Going back to our rock dove, the largest range of any species is that of the rock dove. This species had a large natural distribution from Britain and Ireland to North Africa, across Europe, Arabia, Central Asia, India, the Himalayas, and up into China and Mongolia. So that is a lot of countries. Of course, they have a very big range. And the range of species increased dramatically upon domestication, as the species went feral in cities around the world. And the real reason that they have such a large range across so many different continents and countries is because of the domestication of these pigeons. A lot of people had pigeons as pets. They used them as messengers, homing pigeons carriers, racing, as we learned in the beginning of the episode. And when humans no longer had the use for them, they became feral, and now they're found everywhere. So it's kind of interesting to see how these pigeons kind of started off as a property for humans, which is not entirely a bad thing or a good thing either, but it is just fact. And then they kind of found their freedom and now they're roaming everywhere. They have amazing adaptations, which we're going to be learning about next episode. So stick around and let's, end this episode here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys, have a great day.